Welcome to the Empowered Money Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Franks. Before we hop in, I do want to disclose some information that anything on this podcast is for educational purposes only, that I'm not an accountant, I'm not an attorney, and although I am a financial advisor, I may not be your financial advisor. So please make sure to take anything that we discuss here to your professional team before making any decisions. With that being said, today we have an awesome guest. Lee Heisman, partner of Exit Stage Left, is joining us today to discuss his firm and how they help business owners successfully exit stage left here. Thanks for joining us today, Lee.
Hey, good morning, Alan. How are you doing? Good to see you.
Doing awesome, doing awesome. Hey, I want to dive deep today in the process of selling a business, but before I do, would you mind giving us, our listeners, just a glimpse of your background, who you are, how you got to where you are today?
Sure. Well, not only did we do this for all of our clientele across the country, we did this ourselves, Alan. Kind of a history of myself. I've been an entrepreneur for well over 30 years, owning businesses. I relocated to Georgia, nearly 30 years ago, half my life. And I was fortunate to be an entrepreneur, to open businesses, and I exited over 3 different exits myself. So I went through the process of exactly what my clientele, how to run a business. I've done it myself. And then I went out into the world of private equity and sold my business. And you get a windfall of cash. Many years ago, I've got multiple windfalls of cash. And it's very hard to be upset, Alan, at that point when you get a windfall of cash until you look back and go, wait a minute. I didn't know what I didn't know. And you realize, wow, these PE firms, these family offices, I'm not going to say they took advantage of me, but I definitely didn't do it the right way. And that was kind of the impetus for us opening up our organization. My business partner and I, who did the same thing, we actually started getting calls about 6 years ago from entrepreneurs saying, hey, you sold your business. How do you do it? And that's not a one phone call or a 30-minute podcast to understand that. Kind of the impetus for opening up Exit Stage Left. Now we take our clientele from the beginning to the end, not only because we did it, but now we have the lens. We know where all the landmines are.
Wonderful. And how would you describe a successful exit?
Okay, so first off, a successful exit is described very clearly with we actually get the exit done. A lot of people go through the process, Alan. They spend months and months, and if there's listeners or viewers out there that have even attempted to try this, a lot of people don't exit when they try to. It's not that I want to sell my business and it's suddenly going to happen. A lot of people say, I want to sell it and I want to sell it for a certain amount of money. Finding the perfect buyer or finding a buyer not only that wants to buy you, but has the ability, Alan, to buy you and the ability to close a deal and the experience to be able to do that deal, that's what's so hard. So a lot of entrepreneurs, including myself before I did this, you get wooed by people interested in your business and you could spend months, sometimes up to a year, going through this process and it all falling apart at the end. And you don't want that t-shirt, the hosing at the closing, Alan. You don't want that to happen. That's kind of why, you know this, Alan, when you're using a professional like yourself, or when you think about using professional services, I don't know your space as well. If I need a mechanic for my car, I don't try to fix it myself. You want to use a professional that has done this many, many times in the past, not only for themselves, but for goodness, over 91 clients for us. So a successful exit, number one, is getting it done. But number two, it's reverse engineering, Alan, what exactly the client wants, right? Does someone say, I want to exit and leave the next day? I want to exit and I want to roll equity and help grow it with a bigger business. I want to take chips off the table. That's called a second bite of the apple. Really, when we meet people, Alan, the majority of our time spent isn't what I'm going to do for them. It's me listening. What's important to you and how do you want this process to happen?
Now, let's talk about timing here for a second. I'm going to guess oftentimes when business owners come to you, they want to sell, they want to get out at that moment in time. And that's just really hard to do, right? When is the perfect time for somebody to start engaging with somebody who does what you do?
Well, let me start, Alan, by saying and telling you the not perfect time.
Yeah.
So it's really funny. Sorry to say it that way, but let me tell you the incorrect time. If
Yeah.
your organization, you have your revenue and you have your profits, and profits are referred to in this space as EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, accumulation. You know this, of course. That's the way that private equity or family offices look at the value of most businesses. There's a small segment, Alan, that will sell by revenue, and those are a small, small segment. Most sell by profit. If your revenue and profit are flat or going down, this would be the absolute wrong time. So, Alan, it's easy to tell you the right answer when I can tell you this is the wrong answer.
Yeah.
When they're flat or going down is the wrong time. When you're burnt out and say, hey, I've just done this for so long, your revenues are flat or going down, it's time for me to sell it. I want you, if you're listening, to think for a moment about how appealing is that to somebody who wants to buy you, right? You're burnt out. The business is kind of, I'm not going to say failing, but not really growing. That's not an appealing business. So, Alan, it's a really good question because it's a hard answer when I say when your business is starting to explode. You said, but wait, I don't want to sell when I'm making look at all this opportunity and money that I'm starting to make right now. So I
Yeah.
call it the Goldilocks moment, not too hot, not too cold, right in the middle, not too early, not too late, right in the middle. It's threading that needle of, I'm really starting to grow the business. We're starting to make good money. And most importantly, Alan, some key pieces. As you're growing it, you want to consider what's called a G2. These are really important factors. A G2 is a generation two person. So, Alan, many times we'll get with clients that maybe want to sell at this moment and we'll have to revisit this and say, here's a better time in 6 months or a year. Or they might want to sell in 2 or 3 years. So we'll consult with them over that time to say, we got to build a generation two. You're not leaving if you don't have someone behind you. So I'll answer your question. I answered it in a long-winded, roundabout way. Hopefully, it provided context. Don't think you're going to sell if you're flat or going down in revenues and profit. And if you're growing, keep your foot on the gas. And that is actually the time to sell because your history financially and the structure of your business is what the buyers are looking at, and they're paying you on your growth.
So is it fair to look at this as if you're a professional athlete? Let's take Chipper Jones, for instance, right? Greatest third baseman in NL history. Is that right, Lee? Was,
I'm from Philly, but I'm not gonna, I'm gonna say Chipper and Mike Schmidt. I'll throw my Mike Schmidt
all
in
right.
there
We'll
as
throw him
well.
in, right? So obviously, Chipper launched his career right around 95, won the World Series right there, had a huge growth mode, won the MVP in 99, I believe, 98 or 99, and then eventually retired, I think around 36, 37. He batted over 300 that year, I believe, right? Now, most athletes do not retire at that moment in time because even though he was productive, his productivity was definitely slowing down. And what I've found, particularly with baby boomer led businesses, right, is that even though they're growing, their growth is really slow to a halt. And even though their sales and revenue might still be going up, their expenses are going up faster than their revenue. Therefore, their profits are shrinking. And they're almost looking for a lifeboat at this point to say, hey, I would have been better selling at 60, but here I am at 65. Profits are dwindling. Making $250,000 a year pre-COVID was a lot of money. Making that now is really tough. Come help me, Lee. Come save me, right? Are you finding that trend to be true? And if we look at the life cycle of a business from launch to growth to maturity to decline, we really want to make certain that we don't wait till the decline. We at least are in the mature phase, maybe even the late cycle of that growth phase. Is that fair?
100%, Alan, you're right on point. And even your knowledge in your own position, you know more than most people. So if your business is even growing and it's slowing, you can still make a transaction. If you ask me, Lee, I need you to maximize the multiple, maximize my TEV, total enterprise value, right? It's just like every negotiation. If you say, look, I'm 65, I might have missed my window, but you're still growing, we can still make an exit. It may not have the largest multiple or the largest TEV, but we can still get you to exit out of that organization. Again, it's that perfect storm that if you can time it at just the right time, where there's a giant future ahead and you've done a great job in the past, it's the hardest time to get owners to look at selling their businesses, right? And then you look back and go, oh, I missed that window. But you're exactly right. Even if it's maturing, like a Chipper Jones, like you said, you're still going to have a great contract. You're still going to get a great exit. It just may not be as big as it was 1, 2, or 3 years ago. The big thing, Alan, is as an entrepreneur, and anybody listening can completely attest to this, your neck is on the line for everything. You know that you're working 24/7 as usual. Even if you're away on vacation, you're still working all the time, but it's all on your shoulders. So a lot of entrepreneurs will say, I want to take the chips off the table. So this is where the most successful transactions happen, where I'm doing well. I know I can keep growing it, but why don't I grow it on someone else's dime? Why don't I sell 75, 80% of my business, or effectively, Alan, you sell 100% of your business, but you can roll 10, 15, 20, 30% equity into what's called new co, the new company. So I say this very simply. Would you like to have 100% of a grape, which is your current business, no matter how large your grape is, or would you like 20 to 30% of a watermelon? So if you end up selling and taking the chips off the table, putting money away, then you're rolling 20 to 30% into a larger watermelon that you have every opportunity to help grow as well. And Alan, you and I have, been a part of some successful transactions, and you saw the structure of those transactions where They take some chips off the table, they roll equity, they double down, and the PE firms or the family offices put jet fuel on that company and start making acquisitions underneath of them and growing it together. So you de-risk yourself, and then you have the really what's called second bite of the apple, which usually after that sale is usually bigger than the first.
So let's talk about that. And we got grapes, we got watermelon, we got second bites of the apple here, which is why it's so important to choose the right partner to sell to. Because ideally, you sell once and then you get that second bite of the apple. And even though it might only be 25%, the first bite's 75%, sometimes, as you mentioned, that 25% could be bigger than the original
So
75.
it usually is, Alan. It usually is
Wow.
bigger.
How do you go about vetting these partners? How do you go about saying, "Hey, Mister Seller, here are three or four really good buyers that we think," and how typically does that relationship emerge where the buyer feels more comfortable with one over the other?
So that's a great question, Alan. And cut to our secret sauce at our organization. Meeting clients like I used to be, where they're an entrepreneur that wants to sell, of course. I connect with them immediately. Of course, other investment bankers, exit consultants like ourselves, it's like selling a house. If they've never owned a business, they can't really relate the way that we do. Our entire organization are people that have exited businesses, so we sat in their chair. Number one. So working with our clients are wonderful. What's even bigger, and I'd say 90% of our team's work is the 1,400 relationships we have across the country with private equity and family offices. So, Alan, the majority of our time are spent with the private equity and family offices across the country. And we could take an hour talking about this. I did a keynote on buyers, but those offices, we know where all the money is. We know, I quote, where the bodies are buried and what industries they're looking for. So within our database, all the people that we spent time with over the past 6 years, we know, oh, they have a third fund for $400 million looking for electrical contractors and roofing companies. This company has a seventh fund with $250 million, $250 million in it, that they want to allocate for plumbing companies or for software technology. So we keep track of what these firms do and how they raise their money, and then the industries that they want to put that money into. And then, Alan, ultimately, from our experience, we know which buyers want people to roll equity. We know which buyers, example, I sold an automatic door company many years ago, and my client was over 60. He wanted to leave. And he allows me to tell this story. I won't mention names, but he tells it very openly. And this is really the value of our organization and why you want to use a firm like ours. You don't have to use ours, but a firm like ours, because we have a proprietary auction process. This client handed me a valuation. And Alan, you're familiar with valuations, right?
Oh yeah,
You have these quantitatives going and
yeah.
taking paper to it. And his business was worth $14 million on paper. That's what he was told. That was the paper he had. And he said, Lee, can you get me this money? And I said, I made a few calls, and I know a lot of the PE firms in his space, and it was an automatic door company, the kind of you walk through at hospitals and Dollar
Yep.
Generals. And
Mhm.
through our process of 60 buyers and finding the right buyer, not just the most money, Alan. Most money usually doesn't hit. This one we happened to hit, but it was the one that was willing to let him walk away because they made acquisitions in the space. So he was able to leave. This $14 million business on paper sold for $22 million
Mhm.
because people were bidding. It's a silent blind auction, and people were bidding based on their desire. And in addition, it was an A++ because it was an all cash deal, and he was able to leave. Not
Wow.
everyone works like that, but I knew which buyer had the
Mhm.
infrastructure to allow him to leave. Where if
Yep.
you sell to another buyer, they might say, hey, I need you. And Alan, maybe you sell your business one day. Alan, I need you to stay around for 3 years. So
Yeah.
it's all about the buyer relationships, and it's our database and our relationships across the country that know this is the perfect fit. Alan, last piece. Most businesses do not sell for, if you get 5 or 7 bids, I would say 98% of our clients do not choose the highest bid
Mm.
because 50% of a deal is the EV, total enterprise value. The other 50 is the structure. So the structure tends to matter a little bit more. Hey, how long am I staying? How much equity am I rolling? What's the bonus structure? Who's the buyer? They're all in the same realm, but most of the time we're not choosing the highest amount. They're choosing the best partner.
Yep. Awesome. Well, hey, taking one step backwards here, you mentioned earlier TEV, enterprise value, the idea that a business owner can sell their business as an asset to help them live their best personal life is oftentimes something that a business owner has not thought of. Or if they've done it, if they thought about it, it was a long time ago and they have no clue what their business is worth. Is it sellable? So let's just start there here. Is every business sellable? And when you look underneath the curtains of a business, somebody comes to you, what are the first things that you're looking for to determine how sellable that business actually is?
All right, so it's easy. First off, Alan, great questions. My gosh, you've done this before. Most people don't think of this level of criticalness that you do. So thank you for teeing this up. But I tend to answer these by saying the bad stuff first. When you were saying, what do you when it's right time, when it's not, when's the best time to sell it. So it kind of goes back to that right time. A lot of people don't even realize they think their business is wonderful. They're living it every day. If you're not making money, if you're not profitable, this is not a sellable business. So
Mhm.
many people will come to me and say, hey, I have this business. And first thing I'll say is, how's your revenue and profits? And people will give me their revenue, which is the top line for businesses. But I'll say, how are your profits? So we sign NDAs, Alan, before we discuss anything with anybody. But I always tell people, it's like if you go into the ER, right? You run into the ER, Alan, and you say, I'm injured or I'm not feeling good. And they say, we want to run a CAT scan, an MRI, x-rays, blood work. And you say, no, I'm not letting you do any of that. Now, please fix me, right? That doesn't work. So we need to dig into our clientele's numbers and books. And it really starts with the books. It doesn't matter how sexy, how wonderful your business looks, how much your people love you, what culture you have. Those things matter secondarily or in a
Mhm.
tertiary fashion. Number one is, how are the numbers and are you making money? I'm just being very blunt about it. I was an entrepreneur for 30 years. The culture, the team, this matters so much. And I've been in so many rooms with CEOs where everybody starts talking about their culture and all this value. And I said, that is wonderful. I do this every day. This year alone, Alan, we've closed over $300 million of deals since January, over 11 deals in total. It's hard to close one deal, let alone 11 deals. So we
Yeah.
do this every day. And I'm going to tell you, it starts with, does your business make money? And then I want you to consider, how do you make money? So to jump a little more into your question, is it recurring revenue? Is it reoccurring revenue? Or is it project based? So you can sell a business with all of those. You will make less multiples on project because you're eating what you kill. If
Mhm.
you are working with the same clients for the past, just call it 5 years, I've worked with the same clients. We're not under contract, but they're my same clients for 5 years. I consider that reoccurring, right? It's not
Yeah.
recurring, it's not contractual, but it's reoccurring, which is more value, positive. And then the most valuable is recurring, Alan. And I'll share this with you. One of the largest multiples in the country. I was in a room, I think I might have told you this story. I was in a room of 1,000 people discussing this. I was doing a presentation, and I said, show of hands of the 1,000 people in this room. When is the last time someone in this room changed your pest control company? And being on the stage, I'm able to watch everybody's face, and you see their
Yeah.
face start to contort and think, oh. And then I said, wait, before anybody answers, do you even know what credit card the $29 a month for them to come in and squirt some magic liquid in the house is on? Alan, one person raised their hand. I sent a microphone over. I said, tell us why. Tell us why you're the weirdo in the room, right? Everybody laughed. There was a reason they sold a business and they had to move, whatever it was. But I said, I want the room to look at this. 1/10 of 1% change their pest control. So if I'm a buyer, what's valuable to me? That recurring, that predictability. So, Alan, predictability is one of the most important points if someone's looking at selling the business. So, last piece, size matters. If you are under $1 million of profit, and Alan, I'm being frank, right? No pun. Alan, I'm
Yeah.
being frank,
Yeah.
not
Please
Frank's,
do.
but I'm being frank here. If you're under $1 million of profit, you're best served going to a local organization on the website like Biz Buy Sell. You're going to probably list it locally, and someone local is going to want to come in and buy it. So the
Mhm.
smaller the business is, you're not going to probably get a private equity or family office to buy you.
Sure.
And more importantly, you will have to do some form of seller financing because you're having
Mhm.
somebody coming in to get a small loan from a bank and hopefully take over a smaller business. If you're above, we usually roll in the 2 to 20 million of profit EBITDA number. It's not because larger, Alan, we only work with larger people. It's because our buyer pool, all those
Yep.
PE firms are looking for really 3 to 20, but we say 2 because if you're trending upward, we know we're going to get there. That's
Yeah.
easy. So size matters significantly. And let me share for owners out there listening, this is the most important reason. I want you to think about Bob's HVAC company. right? If Bob's HVAC company is making one, two, and up to $3 million of profit, not revenue, profit, Bob is still an integral piece of that business. Think of you as a business owner, Alan, right? You're still juggling a lot of stuff as a sole
Mhm.
proprietor, up to 2 to 3 million of EBITDA. There's still a lot on your shoulders. Private
Mhm.
equity loves 5 million and above. Alan, 5 million and above means Bob cannot be integral in that business. He
Yep.
matters. He might be the face of it, but you can't be that sizable of a
Mhm.
business. So
Yep.
size matters because it makes it less dependent on the sole proprietor. And PE
Mhm.
firms, please be clear, they're much smarter than all of us. They do this every day. That's why that
Yep.
rolling equity, that second bite of the apple, you could take $1 million of your sale and put it into the S&P. But I will tell you, if you
Mhm.
take $1 million of your sale, put it in the S&P with it over and over and over again, you will make 10x more money putting it into the private equity firm that you're a part of.
Yeah. Now, I've always thought, okay, underneath a million of profit, we are positioning ourselves what we call a mom and pop sell. Mom and pop company to a mom and pop company. And there, depending on the industry, it might be 2, 3x, maybe, right? But it's going to be seller financing because that mom and pop company buying you is going to be maybe a little cash strapped. But if we can get you up to what you said, 2 million and above and growing, right? We just unlocked a whole bunch of sellers, private equity sellers, and your multiples are going to skyrocket, maybe even double from that mom and pop sell. Is that accurate?
Alan, you're going to come on with me to my next tour when I speak about this because that's exactly accurate. It's not only, and again, I'm deep in the weeds with all of the deals, but it's not only everything you just said. So from a financial perspective, you are right on point. Perfect. What it's also going to do is allow us to get a deal done. The smaller that you are, it's just harder to navigate this. I want you to consider, the flexibility and the control you have in a negotiation matters when they want you very badly. So if you're smaller and we're arguing over $20,000 for in the purchase and sale agreement or $25,000 versus in a larger deal, there's more flexibility. You, I, we did a roofing deal recently in out of Illinois, Chicago. It was publicly announced as well. But I remember at the final stages, this deal ended up being near a $40 million deal for our client. And of the three remaining buyers, it was literally one phone call. We wanted to lean in one direction, and I called the buyer and said, "Hey, can you throw $2 million more into this deal? And if you do, we'll sign the LOI." So I want you to consider it took them 3 minutes to say we're in if you sign it. And it was a phone call of a 3 minute phone call to make our client an extra $2 million versus if we're fighting for 20 grand or 15 grand, that matters a lot to those smaller clients. The money matters a lot to the smaller clients. So
Hmm.
private
Hmm.
equity and PE, they absolutely prefer the larger deal because they have a lot more flexibility. But Alan, it's all about lever pulling. When I did mention we got them an extra $2 million, we also were willing to take that in stock and equity. So I
Mm.
wasn't saying you got to come out of pocket in cash for
Yep.
that. So if I want
Yep.
another two, I can't say I want it all in cash and I want it in $1 bills. Obviously,
Yep.
I can't ask for everything, but you have to give and take. So every lever you're pulling in a deal, there has to be another lever going the other direction. So we'd like this, but we're willing to take it in equity. We're willing to structure it so comes in over time. It's just about a give and a take in life. So
Yep.
size
Yep.
matters. You're right about smaller. We can help them grow to the right size where they become appealing.
Let's talk about getting to that point. Those are large numbers that you just mentioned. I found that business owners oftentimes think selling their business would be like selling their home, right? You post it on there, whatever you get, whatever you post for, you're going to get somewhere near there, right? 30 days to sell it, 30 days to close, and nothing goes wrong. And what I found is for our business owners trying to sell is Murphy's Law happens. And to go on top of Murphy's Law, which says anything that can go wrong will go wrong, there's Sod's Law that says it'll go wrong at the worst possible time, right?
I like
So
that extra piece.
all of our business owners, most of them have never sold a company before. Can you walk through what the process looks like and typically, and maybe put some time ranges behind it as well?
Sure. So I'll do a Quentin Tarantino and start from the end and
Yeah.
simply say you're looking at an 8 to 12 month period for the entire process. So from the beginning, you either engage or sign with I'll use our firm. I'm here for your clientele or anybody listening to this. Please use whoever you want to use appropriately. I'm here as a resource for Alan and his firm, and we provide this knowledge. So first and foremost, it will be an 8 to 12 month period. It can be longer if we come in and we realize, hey, we want to hold. We don't want to sell this year. We want to sell next year. We need to do X, Y, and Z. So putting those things aside, if an organization is saying if they're ready to go, 8 to 12 months. I've done some in 6, but that was a unique situation. The majority 8 to 12 months. You're doing an intake form from the beginning, Alan. You can appreciate this. Our organization, for example, will take upwards of 2 months plus to do a full financial analysis and package. We're putting together everything that the private equity firms want to look at. So you hopefully have a good CPA. It's questionable, Alan, do you bring your controllers in or not? We try to keep things as silent as possible so we gain access to the QuickBooks files or to the books that our clients have. Once we go through that process of doing the financial analysis, we're then going in and we're going into our marketplace. We're creating our what's called a memorandum, Alan, SIM, confidential information memorandum, and it's kind of the Bible about the business. Our goal, Alan, for clientele is you don't want to have to get on the phone with 100 people, right? You're just wasting time. You need to go run your business. So after we build the memorandums, so for 2 months to 3 months, our organization is bothering you, the owner, and it depends how fast you are. So, Alan, I gave you an 8 to 12 month. It can be the short time if someone's readily available, willing to work on weekends and get us data, willing to get us the data timely. But if you are slower, there's nothing wrong with it. The deal goes slower. Once you
Hmm.
go into the marketplace and our firm starts speaking to the buyers about the organization, that's another month or two of conversations and maybe management meetings. We're probably 6 months in to start getting offers with the appropriate information, because what you don't want is you don't want to start signing blind offers with people that don't have money, don't know your business, tie you up for another 3 to 5 months in due diligence, and the deal falls apart. That's kind of
Hmm.
our secret sauce is we know who's going to be able to close a deal. And then you sign an LOI, letter of intent. We sometimes start with an IOI, which is indication of interest. It's kind of the first step. But the letter of intent is a binding document. Let me digress. It's a non-binding document. It's binding in the sense that we can't go out to other people once we sign that. So there's a confidentiality piece and we can't go out to others. But it's not binding. You don't have to close the deal. It's just we can't go market you anywhere else. Once that LOI is signed, you're looking at usually a 90-day time period. It can be a little longer, but it's how detailed and how much information are we getting the buyers. And buyers, Alan, will most likely, these are large organizations, they'll bring in third party companies to run through your human resource due diligence, your financial due diligence, your whether it be insurance due diligence, something specific to your industry, then your legal due diligence, where we work with some great M&A attorneys, Alan. It's the only thing I tell sellers out there, you are the boss. You run this show 51%. I got a big mouth, Alan. I'll yell bloody murder to all of
Hmm.
our clients, but they are the final decision makers, except one thing. And Alan, some of the friends that we work with together said you must use one of the handful of M&A attorneys that we work with, because I can't spend a year doing a deal for you to use your friend down the street who might be a great
Yep.
attorney. That person can
Yep.
second chair, but a non-M&A attorney will unequivocally mess up an M&A deal that we spent a year doing. So use a highly reputable M&A firm. We have a ton in our back pocket that we trust implicitly, that know, I'm not stepping over a dollar to pick up a penny. I'm not going to step over details to ruin a deal that's not material. So yes, Alan, 8 to 12 months, consider that's going to be your time frame, and it's all going to be dependent on how fast and responsive you are. And I'll end on this last note. Most owners and businesses, if you're listening out there, I was you for 30 years. You are not doing your books and analyzing your books every day. You're running your business. You're growing and looking at, hey, my next sale, my next this, I've got employees to worry about, culture, all the things that matter to you. So welcome to the club of everyone. Is when I say welcome to coming into a financial analysis and go, I don't have that info. I have no idea I'm going to get it. Then we lock hands and we help you get it. And that takes a long time because you're not running your business, analyzing your business. There's a small amount of business owners that do that, but the majority don't know what their own books are. The majority really don't even know their own profits. That's okay. I deal with all different business owners. Welcome to the club of everyone.
Yeah. So let's talk about the business owner real quick. We have IOIs, we have LOIs, right? We've got due diligence here. What is the business owner feeling throughout this entire thing? What are they put us in the mind of a business owner that's going through due diligence and this other company's coming back asking for all this information and it's overwhelming. Meanwhile, they still got to grow sales.
Oh gosh, Alan, it's quite possibly the hardest part of our job. So I just got a text from a client today just saying, we miss you, Lee. We hated the misery that we put us through, but we miss you," meaning not me, but the whole deal structure. Alan, our entire organization is like a set of psychiatrists, psychologists, right? The level of stress and duress from business owners, that it is one of the look. I've done it multiple times, and I think I aged many years during the process. And being able to be calm and being able to be that shining light for our clients through the process, thank goodness it takes a year because you build trust over the first 6, 8 months. I mean, I'm working with a client now, a very successful organization. And after a few months, I always am very delicate about, hey, we're thinking of this. He's like, Lee, I trust you implicitly. You don't have to just tell me what I got to do next. And once we get to that phase where I trust you implicitly, just tell me the next step, that's really important. It's kind of funny, Alan. I know, later we had talked a little bit about, kind of what podcasts we listen to, what books we read. There's a book that I recommend strongly to everyone called Breathe by James Nestor. And, it's all about, people don't realize how important breathing is. We do it every day, but you don't think about it. And, your nasal breathing, it filters, moisturizes, humidifies air in your lungs. We're talking now, you're not even thinking about breathing, but the amount of focused, intentional breathing, exhaling, deep breathing to calm yourself through this process. It's one of the best gifts that I give to our clients in this process. I make them read that book and I'm like, I'm going to say, go to chapter 5 when we're in this situation, go to chapter 6 when we're in that situation. So it's a good segue of how miserable, Alan, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. This is going to be one of the most stressful, miserable experiences of your life. If you were to ask, just use the clientele just this year alone, right? If I gave the phone number of every one of the clients we sold just this year alone and said, was it worth it? Everyone has said, I cannot believe I made it over the line. We don't make it over the line without you guys, but it was worth everything. In the middle of it, I could never have told you that. So I don't like to promote it. I actually have our clients, if they go through tough times, say, you can talk to any of the clients we've done this with, because it's another entrepreneur saying, I didn't think I was going to be able to make it, but it was the best decision I made. So Alan, it's a miserable, terrible experience, but worth it in the end. So there's no sugarcoating it.
What would you say your biggest regret has been so far? What would you go back and do differently if you had a chance? And then also, what are you most grateful for? What is that one thing that you did a while back that, man, you're just so excited and so grateful that you did?
Great questions. Wow. Okay. Let's go into the biggest regret. So I do live my life, Alan, avoiding regret like the plague. So that most actions of mine are not to gain anything. For the past few decades, it is literally, I'm doing that to avoid regret. Regardless of the consequence, I do not avoid regret. I will share with you that my biggest regret, and I couldn't have fixed it, it sounds so bad to say this, Alan. You've thrown me on the spot. I'm embarrassed to say this. I didn't know what I was doing when I was selling my own businesses, and I did it multiple times over. And if I knew any better, I would have had an exit consultant. I'm not saying me, but I would have had someone like me. And there's kind of the impetus for us opening this up because I left millions of dollars on the table. And by the way, the firm that bought some of my companies, wonderful people. I still speak to them today. But I didn't go into the market the right way. I just had people approach me, Alan, and say, "Hey, we want to buy it." And I'm like, "Oh, great! I trust you implicitly. You have my needs. You want to buy me." If I went out and marketed it, if I remotely had an ESL back then, it isn't just about the money, but I would have had a whole different structure. So that's a regret that I couldn't have controlled, and I just didn't know any better. Ignorance is bliss. Give me that last question again.
Yeah, what are you most grateful for? What's something that happened in your life that really kind of led you to where you are?
This is hokey, but it's true. It's so, so true. I have 3 wonderful daughters, 23, 21, and 12. And, this lifestyle of being an entrepreneur for 30 something years and now doing this, and be clear, it's the most stressful thing for our clients. It's still not easy for us, right? It's very difficult for us. My wife, my goodness gracious, Emily Heisman, the fact that she tolerates me in my previous careers and tolerates me going through this, keeping our family together and keeping me grounded. I'm not joking, Alan. I'm a machine in one direction, but I could lose my way in what matters so much deep in my heart if it wasn't for her. So I know it sounds hokey, but when you find that partner that, that offsets you and fixes the things where you're not really good at and then brings you back and keeps you grounded, that is probably the thing. No question. My daughters are wonderful. My business partners are great, but I am most grateful for her unequivocally.
That's fantastic. Lee, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom here today. How can people contact you?
Oh, well, you can find me on LinkedIn. My email is lee@esladvisors.com, or my cell phone is 404-431-7800. But we're out there in the media. If you go on LinkedIn, my wife is sick and tired of all my EBITDA t-shirts. If you see me on the road in Georgia, my license plate says EBITDA. It actually does, Alan. So it's embarrassing. I'm the EBITDA guy. You had me at EBITDA t-shirt. What's your EBITDA? It's embarrassing. My wife prevents me from wearing these anymore when we're together.
It's so annoying, and I love it so much. It's fantastic. Wait, thank you so much for your time. It has been so much fun. Hopefully, we can have you back here soon. And thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Alan.